The evening began like any other. Arman came home late from the firm, his tie loosened, his briefcase heavy with files he hadn't the energy to look at. The small apartment smelled of fried onions and coriander. Layla had cooked. For a moment, he felt grateful. Grateful for the simplicity of her presence, for the ordinary comfort of marriage. She placed a plate in front of him, her movements quiet, precise. There was something about her calmness that unsettled him, though he couldn't put a finger on it. Usually, Layla filled their dinners with chatter, stories of neighbors, cousins, or her latest finds online. Tonight, her silence pressed against him like an unspoken weight. Halfway through the meal, she looked at him with steady eyes, and her voice broke the silence like a blade. "Arman," she said almost casually, "my ex wants me to have a child for him. It's just one child after that. Nothing more." The fork froze in his hand. For a few seconds the words didn't register. He thought maybe he had misheard her. "What?" She repeated it with the same composure, as though she was suggesting a weekend trip or a change of curtains. At first he laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. "You're joking, right? Some twisted joke?" But Layla didn't smile. Her expression remained unnervingly calm. That was when the air seemed to thicken and the ground beneath him began to tilt. "What kind of madness is this?" he asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. "You're my wife. How can you even say something like that?" Layla set her fork down and folded her hands on the table. Her voice was steady, rehearsed, as if she had practiced this conversation in her head 100 times. "Arman, you know Samir remarried. His new wife can't have children. He needs an heir, his bloodline secured. He came to me not out of love, but out of desperation. He trusts me. He asked me for this favor." Arman stared at her, his heart pounding in his ears. "A favor? Carrying another man's child is not a favor, Layla. It's betrayal." She leaned forward, her tone firm, practical. "Listen to me. This isn't about emotions. Samir is offering us financial freedom, money that could wipe away our debts, buy us the house we've always dreamed of, give us the life you keep saying we can't afford. It's 9 months, Arman. After that, I'd be yours again, completely. Nothing would change between us." "Nothing would change?" His voice rose. "You'd be pregnant with his child. Do you even hear yourself?" Layla's jaw tightened. "You're overreacting. You're making this about pride when it's really about survival. You work yourself to exhaustion and still, we can barely make ends meet. This is an opportunity, Arman. A practical solution." He pushed his chair back, the screech of wood against the floor sharp in the silence. "A solution? You think selling yourself to your ex is a solution? You expect me to sit here, watch you carry another man's child, and then what? Raise it as if it were mine? It wouldn't be ours to raise," she said quickly, almost defensively. "Samir would take full responsibility. We would just benefit." Arman's chest heaved. He turned away, pacing the small room, unable to look at her. The woman he thought he knew, the woman he loved, was speaking like a stranger. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying her words over and over. Just one child. After that, nothing more. The simplicity of her tone haunted him. How easily she had reduced their marriage vows to a transaction. He remembered their wedding day, her trembling hand in his as they made promises no one forced them to make, for better or worse, in wealth or in poverty. Back then, they had been content with so little: a rented flat, second-hand furniture, a shared dream of building something together. When had money become more important than loyalty? Over the following days, Layla didn't let the subject drop. Each evening, she returned to it, chipping away at his silence. "You know what Samir is offering, Arman? Millions, enough for us to never worry again. Don't you want me to live without constant stress, without debt collectors breathing down our necks? You always complain about how trapped you feel. This is a way out, one sacrifice, one time, then we're free." But to Arman, it wasn't a sacrifice. It was the ultimate humiliation. Each time she brought it up, he felt his pride bleed out, leaving him hollow. Yet beneath his rage another fear gnawed at him, a darker, more insidious thought. What if I refuse, and she goes to him anyway? Layla was stubborn. He had seen her fight for what she wanted before, with a determination that could move mountains. What if this was no different? What if her loyalty to him wasn't as strong as her desire for security? One evening, after another exhausting day at work, he found her sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, her eyes bright with something like hope. "I spoke to Samir today," she said. "He's serious. He wants to meet us, to explain everything. Please, Arman, just listen. Hear him out." Layla didn't deny it. "Because you're too emotional. You won't even consider it. I want you to see the bigger picture." The bigger picture. The words tasted bitter. To her, the bigger picture was money, comfort, freedom from worry. To him, the bigger picture was loyalty, dignity, love that wasn't for sale. That night, he stood by the window long after she had gone to bed. The city lights blinked in the distance, indifferent to his turmoil. His reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, eyes shadowed, mouth grim. He realized, with a sinking weight in his chest, that something in their marriage had already broken. Even if she changed her mind tomorrow, even if she begged for forgiveness, the fact would remain. She had considered it. She had weighed him against wealth, and she hadn't chosen him outright. A week later, Arman came home earlier than usual. The firm had closed early for the weekend, and he thought maybe, just maybe, a quiet evening would bring clarity. But as he stepped into the apartment, the silence was sharp. The usual smell of spices was absent. Instead, the first thing he noticed was Layla's phone buzzing on the table. He never made a habit of snooping. He considered it beneath him, but something inside him, the gnawing doubt that had grown heavier by the day, pushed his hand forward. He glanced at the glowing screen. A message from Samir. "I can't wait. Everything will be arranged. Just say yes." The blood drained from Arman's face. His chest tightened until he could barely breathe. It was no longer a hypothetical conversation, no longer a debate between husband and wife. It was a plan, already in motion. He placed the phone down as carefully as if it were made of glass. His hands shook. In that moment, the marriage he thought he still had flickered out. Trust had died quietly, not with shouting or betrayal caught red-handed, but with a single message on a glowing screen. When Layla came home, humming lightly as if she hadn't detonated their world, Arman was waiting. He sat on the edge of the couch, her phone on the table before him. She froze for a fraction of a second before schooling her expression. "Arman, you went through my phone?" She sighed and sat across from him, folding her arms as if preparing for battle. "Yes, it was Samir. I wanted to keep you out of the stress until he finalized everything. You're too emotional." "Emotional," Arman repeated, his fists tightening. "You're plotting to carry another man's child and I'm emotional?" Layla's tone was calm, but her eyes burned with something stubborn, desperate. "I'm being practical. Arman, you don't understand. This money could change everything. Millions. We'd never have to worry again. No more debt, no more working yourself to death. Isn't that what you want?" "What I want," he spat, "is a wife who values me more than money. Do you even hear yourself? You'd rather sell your body and our marriage for his fortune." Her lips quivered, but she steadied herself. "I still love you, Arman. That hasn't changed. It's just one child, and then it's over. If you truly love me, you'll understand that I'm doing this for us." His laugh was sharp, bitter. "For us? Don't insult me. You're doing this for him and for the money. Don't wrap it in pretty words." For the first time, her composure cracked. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to lose this chance. Why can't you see both?" "Because marriage isn't something you put on pause for convenience," Arman said, his voice raw. "It's not a business deal, Layla. It's sacred, and you're treating it like a bargaining chip." The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. In that silence, Arman made his decision. He stood, walked to their bedroom, and pulled out a small suitcase. Layla followed him, panic finally breaking through her calm. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice trembling. He didn't answer at first. He placed folded shirts into the bag, methodical, almost detached. Then he pulled off his wedding ring, held it in his hand for a long second, and placed it gently on the dresser. "You've already made your choice, Layla," he said softly, almost mournfully. "But don't think I'll be here when you're done. I'm not a man who shares." She rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "Please don't do this. I thought you'd understand. I thought—" He pulled free, his face set in stone. "You thought wrong. I won't be the man waiting in the shadows while you give another man what was supposed to be mine alone." That night, he walked out of the apartment with nothing but his suitcase. The city was cold, the streetlights glaring down at him, but for the first time in weeks, he felt clarity. The pain was sharp, but it was honest. He had chosen dignity over compromise, and though it left him alone, it left him whole. In the weeks that followed, Layla called, messaged, even begged through mutual friends. She said she had refused Samir in the end, that the money meant nothing without Arman. She pleaded for forgiveness, swore she had only been blinded by fear of their future. But Arman didn't answer. He had moved to another city, taken a modest job, and rented a small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was his, untouched by betrayal. He carried the weight of heartbreak, but also a quiet strength. He had not sold himself, not compromised the vows he believed in. Meanwhile, Layla sat alone in their once shared home, surrounded by silence. Samir's offers still lingered, but now they felt hollow, poisoned. She had thought money could buy security, but what she had lost was priceless. Sometimes, late at night, she replayed his last words over and over. "You've already made your choice, Layla, but don't think I'll be here when you're done." Arman, though scarred, carried on. The betrayal had burned him, but from its ashes he rebuilt himself. He would never forget Layla, nor the love that had turned to ashes. But he knew one thing with unshakable certainty.